Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from round 4 of this year's Norway Chess. You guys requested it as it features a queen sacrifice most likely, and also because the players involved with this game are Gukesh and Magnus Carlsen. So it's an Armageddon game. Their classical game ended in a draw. It was a pretty fighting draw, some 80 moves I believe, and maybe even 88 moves. It was a queen and pawn endgame. In the end, there was really nothing for the entire game. Like, it was a 0.00. Not a lot of chances for either of them, so it had to be decided in Armageddon. So Gukesh gets 10 minutes, Magnus gets 7 minutes, but Gukesh needs a win to actually win the encounter. So let's see what happened here. Gukesh with the white pieces opens with e4. We have e5 by Magnus, knight of 3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. The Italian game is on the board, and now knight to f6. The two nice defense, and now not, of course, knight to g5, which I'm sure Magnus would very happily meet with black. Instead, d3. This is the main line, the modern bishop's opening. We have bishop to c5, and now pawn to c3. We have pawn to d6, transposing into the main line of the Giuoco Pianissimo, and bishop to g5. We have h6, bishop to h4, and pawn to a6. We have knight b to d2, and Magnus just goes bishop back to a7. We have castles, queen to e7, and now pawn to b4. Gukesh not messing around. He wants to get a4, b5 in, and g5 is the move that usually is played here, but Magnus plays castles here, and it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So Gukesh, of course, continues pushing on the queen side, pawn to a4. Magnus goes bishop to e6, offers a trade of bishops, but Gukesh would very happily trade this, because then he gets the knight to c4, then the knight can come to e3, then the knight can come to d5 or f5, and he will have excellent attacking potential. Here we have rook to e1, nicely developing, and just bishop captures on c4. We have knight captures, and now pawn to b5. Magnus opens up the a file, a captures, and now knight to a5. Gukesh now wants the a file for himself, and Magnus says, all right, let's do it. Knight captures on a5, probably expecting b captures on a5, but okay, Gukesh would get a passed pawn this way, but then Magnus would play c5, b4, and Magnus would also create a passed b pawn. So Gukesh instead plays a rook captures on a5. We have bishop to b6, attacking the rook, sacrificing the b5 pawn, and Gukesh goes for it. Rook captures on b5. So now he wins a pawn, but he lost the a file, which Magnus will now be able to use. And here Magnus goes pawn to g5, attacks the bishop here, bishop to g3, and now knight to d7, remaneuvering and also maybe even considering moves like f5. So you will have to be very careful, because you will get to attack, but you will also weaken your king side a bit too much maybe. So Gukesh says, all right, pawn to d4. We have f6 by Magnus, and now d captures on e5, f captures on e5, and now pawn to c4. Just grabbing more space on the queen side, pawn to c6. This way the rook can be trapped, and of course Gukesh knows this, but he is up a pawn, and he wants to make use of the open king's position, so he will sacrifice the exchange. c6, rook captures on b6, knight captures, and pawn to c5 now. And if Magnus captures, it would be just terrible for him. For example, if he captures, knight captures on e5 can be played, h4 can be played, his entire center is ruined, the king side is wide open. So in Armageddon with little time on the clock, I do not see him surviving this. So instead, he just plays knight to d7, and now c captures on d6. We have queen to e6 and queen to c2, putting pressure on the c6 pawn. So rook to a6. Best way to play would just be rook to b8 and go for an active defense, go against that b4 pawn. But Magnus played rook to a6, and here he overlooked a little something. Gukesh, even though it's not the best move, the best is just to play h4, open up the king side and attack. But Gukesh played knight captures on e5, which is also very nice. Probably Magnus missed it, because if everything gets traded off, captures, and captures, the rook on a6 can now be picked off by the queen. Just queen to c4 check wins the rook. So Magnus instead, after knight captures on e5, goes rook a2. He attacks Gukesh's queen, and this is where the magic happens. The move from the thumbnail is here. Even though queen to d3 is objectively best, Gukesh gives up the queen. Queen captures rook. Queen captures queen, and now knight captures on d7. So a queen for rook and knight, but also there are the two soon-to-be connected passed pawns in the middle of the board. Now that's definitely compensation. Rook to d8 attacks the knight. Magnus has to now figure out how to set up some sort of a defensive perimeter here. Knight to f6 check, king to f7, and of course pawn to e5. And this looks incredibly scary. You have the two connected pawns. The bishop here guards the e5 pawn. There's the rook, there's the knight. If Gukesh can somehow defend the e6 square, like if you could get your knight to d4 guarding the e6 square, and you can play e6 check, e7, then you're probably just winning. But Magnus will of course try everything he can in order to prevent this. He plays rook d2, attacks the rook here. Queen d2 attacks the rook, f3, defending the rook, and now queen captures on b4. We have pawn to h3, creating some more breathing room for the king. Also, the king will be much safer on h2. Rook to a8. Now, Magnus knows that he can't just wait and do nothing. He needs to put a rook and queen on the second rank and create some sort of a checkmating threat against Gukesh's king. So pawn to d7, Gukesh advances his past d-pawn, now queen to d4 with check, king h2, and now king to e6. And okay, the queen, rook, and king are doing a fine job blockading the two passed pawns. Rook to c1 now, going after the c-pawn. So c5, and now knight to e4. Again, preparing to capture on c5. Magnus advances it, and now knight to d6. Again, going for the pawn, hoping for king captures on d7, and then rook captures on c4. But no, Magnus further advances the pawn to c3, and now knight to e4. And now you cannot advance it further. You have to give it up, or you could defend it with something like rook to e3, but it would still be a much different game. The problem with rook to e3 is that you can still capture. It's not really a problem. Knight captures on c3, and you can't trade everything because the queen has to keep guarding the d8 square. So here you would basically just capture on d7. So however you play it, you are trading pawns. So instead, knight to e4, king captures on d7 was played, rook captures on c3, and now king to d8. We have rook to c6, and here Magnus played queen to e3. And interestingly, here Magnus is completely lost. Gukesh can win a brilliant game here if he finds the next move. So feel free to pause the video and win the game for Gukesh while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the mating web, as the pawn and bishop are a deadly combo. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to e6. This is how you do it. Now, the problem is bishop is coming to d6, and then all of these squares will be covered. Unfortunately, Gukesh did not play it. If he had, it would be game over for Magnus. Point is that black has no counterplay. Whatever you play, let's say play rook a2, something. You're threatening queen captures on f3, then queen captures on g2, going for some sort of a checkmate. Look at this, bishop c7 check. And now if you play king to c8, this is checkmate. Knight to d6 is checkmate. If you go to e8, which is, okay, a little bit better, it's a light square, doesn't matter. Bishop to d6. And now look at this bishop-pawn combo. Completely locking in the black king. Rook to c8 is the threat of checkmate. And even if you stop this, it doesn't matter. Rook to c7. Whatever you play, rook to g7 is coming, so let's say g4, you don't care, just rook to g7, now threatening this checkmate. And if you play pawn to g3 check, okay, you can maybe do a few more checks, queen e1 check, king h2, no more checks, next move it's rook to g8 checkmate. So that's the way it was. However, after queen to e3, Gukesh missed it. He played rook to c3, attacked Magnus's queen to d4, and now rook c2, trying to win the queen with rook to d2. So Magnus sidesteps with the king, and now rook to d2. We have queen to c4 and bishop to f2. So okay, Gukesh still playing a fine game, but it's a shame he missed that. We have rook to a5, putting pressure on the pawn here, and just bishop to g3. And here Magnus played rook to a1, and he's incredibly low on time. He does have a 1 second increment, but it's 15 seconds for Gukesh and only 3 seconds for Magnus for the rest of the game, of course, plus increment. And Gukesh goes for it now. Pawn to e6, he couldn't figure out what to play here, so he just pushed it, hoping that, okay, if you capture, maybe we can play something like rook to d6, attack the pawn, maybe clean out the king side. If king captures, it's pretty much the same. But Magnus just played queen to c1. He wants to checkmate that white king, so of course, bishop to d6 with check, king captures on e6, and now king to g3. But now knight captures, pawn to h5 by Magnus, and now knight captures on g5 with check. We have king to f5, and now rook to d5 with check. Going for a king hunt here, king to g6, and now knight to e4. The game still continues. Gukesh is perfectly fine here, but he played knight to e6, and he completely threw the game away. And Magnus was incredibly composed here, incredibly calm, because he played it with 1 second on the clock, I mean, maybe, okay, 2 seconds or something like that. He played queen to e1 check instantly, and Gukesh immediately resigned here. It connects nicely with the knight. Once the king moves, doesn't really matter what you do. You're gonna lose the knight, and then the queen and rook combo is of course much better than the rook bishop combo. So yeah, tough break for Gukesh. He played a very nice game, played a bold move, sacrificed the queen against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus was on the run here. It was, I mean, really a beautiful position here when queen captures was played. Gukesh was able to set up this blockade. He had the rook on e1 defended. Everything was nice. The bishop defended. The knight defended. The pawns defended. It was merely a matter of how to cross the e6 square with the e-pawn, but Magnus defended well. Gukesh couldn't do it, and in the end, Magnus won. So for those of you who haven't seen my previous video, here's a little bit of extra info. Those are the results of the 4th round. So Gukesh loses to Magnus in Armageddon. Anish loses to Hikaru in Armageddon. Tari loses to Wesley Stowe in Armageddon. Alireza loses to Fabiano Caruana in Classical. We've shown the game. It was a brilliant positional masterpiece by Fabi. And Mamedyarov won a brilliant attacking game against Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Here are the standings after round 4. So Fabi in the lead, in pretty much, wow, what a lead. Almost, well, not almost, twice as many points as Magnus Carlsen. That's I mean, wow. So Hikaru in 2nd, Alireza in 3rd. Then we have Gukesh, Anish, Wesley, Nodirbek, Magnus Carlsen, Shahrir Mamedyarov, and Aryan Tari still in last place. And for those of you who still haven't seen my previous video, these are the live ratings that were updated after the 4th round. As you can see, Fabiano Caruana is the new world number 2. Overtook Alireza, overtook Nakamura, overtook Dingliren, and overtook Jan Nepomniachtchi. He just shot up four places, so absolutely incredible. And okay, nothing really spectacular happening in the top 20 aside from that. But there you have it. I will keep you updated after round 5 and so on and so on. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Really enjoyed covering this beautiful attempt by Gukesh, but Magnus stands his ground. I would like to thank Michal Sakarias, David Gasparian, Brendan Fukuda, Niklas Wolf, and Andras Felinus for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful event until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your Sunday.